Hi, and welcome back to another A Weekend in My Notebooks video for April 28th to April 30th. Unlike other weekends where I usually start with updating my hobonichi weeks, I took out my hobonichi cousin to fill it out for this week. If you have been following me here on YouTube, you will know that the hobonichi cousin is my least filled out notebook, but I am trying to fill in some pieces every week to help future me when I go back to backfill more of it. I think my current plan is to update the hobonichi cousin on the weekend, but I am not that picky right now, as long as I keep adding to it. Here, I am adding in the weather with Randy.plan sticker icons, as well as some timed events for this week with more of her stickers. The reason I did not need to update my hobonichi weeks today is because I have been keeping up with it due to Randy.plan's Patreon sprints, where we follow the Pomodoro method, where you focus on a task for an allotted amount of time and then you have a break and then keep repeating the cycle. So for about 20 minutes we journal and plan, and then we come back to chat for a bit before planning and journaling for another 20 minutes. I will leave her info in the description in case you are interested as well. Typically, I work in the office from Tuesday to Thursday, sometimes even Monday, so the first part of the week I tend to not touch my notebooks as much, except for a few minutes. It really depends on my energy levels, while on the weekend I spend a majority of my time in them. It was refreshing to be using them for at least an hour every day I went to one of the sprints, and I hope to keep up the habit because I feel like I was able to get a lot more tasks done that week. As always, the pen I am using is a Pilot Vanishing Point in Extra Fine with Platinum Carbon ink, and I also use the Pilot Vanishing Point in Fine for whenever I want a thicker line for headers. On Saturday, I took out my hobonichi weeks, and here's a small flip of what the month of April looks like in the weekly section. I am first adding in some tasks as well as filling in the bubble for those I already completed. I also noticed that I did not label my header when I set up my weekly, so I am adding in the word inbox and then updating my weekly habit tracker. At the bottom of the weekly section in the hobonichi weeks, I have a Grey's Anatomy TV show tracker since I need to catch up on a few of the recent episodes from season 19. To be honest, I did not really like the last few seasons, and I am just watching now to know what happens. For me, I love season 1 to season 8, but after that, I felt like with so many characters leaving from the show, it just didn't feel the same. Let me know what you think about the more recent season in the comments if you watch the show as well. Now I am flipping to the monthly section to update an event of my April monthly, and then I am flipping to the May monthly to add in habits to my habit tracker. To check the spacing, I am referencing my February monthly since I did the same habit tracker layout that month. Grabbing my Pilot Vanishing Point in Extra Fine and Staedtler Liner in 05, I am going in to add in the weather as well as more timed events to the weekly section of the Hobonichi Cousin. I am also using a Traveler's Company brass clip to keep the pages of the Hobonichi Cousin flat. Out of frame, I have my laptop open to Google Calendar, which is what I am using to reference to fill out my Hobonichi Cousin, since I use the time blocking method in my Google Calendar. Since the weekend is when I get to spend a majority of my time in what I consider my supplemental books, which just means it's not my planner or my daily journal, this weekend I decided to spend a bigger chunk of time updating my trackers and logs I have for reading. Along with my reading log, I have set up a reading journal, which will be kept in the same Traveler Company archive binder. My reading log is meant to document the books I read within 2023, while the reading journal is not specific to a given year and is meant for me to journal about reading-related prompts like, how did I get into reading? What are my favorite books? Or what's a book I wish I could reread for the first time again? For these journal entries, I am using my Pilot Vanishing Point in Fine with Platinum Carbon ink and black to write the title of the prompts. Then with my Pilot Vanishing Point in Extra Fine, I am adding in the date and time, and I'm also using the same fountain pen to actually journal with. Now I am switching over to my reading log for 2023, which I am still working on completely backlogging it. First, I am adding a 2023 books read list. My goal for the year is to read 52 books, essentially one book a week. For me, reading is something that relaxes me and it's fun, so I like to make time for it in my schedule, though some months like April, I read 0 books, but now I know my reading habits fluctuate, so I'm not worried about hitting my actual goals for the year. The nice thing about not having a pre-printed notebook was that I could customize the layouts exactly how I wanted. Here I added 2 monthly calendars per 2 pages since I only needed a few lines each day since I do not read more than 1 book a day. Each box is 3 tall and 6 wide. I also chose not to include the date numbers since it would take up another line and they weren't really that useful for me since I just want to see how often I start a book since I don't like to read 2 books at once, so I always know I will finish 1 book before I start another. The stickers I am using to actually mark when I read a book are from Randy.plans. They're these little book icons. I think for the fan fiction I read, I will add a laptop sticker. Because I like to read fan fiction, I decided that while I will keep a list of the fan fictions I read and track them on these little mini calendars, I will not add entries with other books, but instead set up another good impression standard size inserts for my fan fiction in a way that I can add more thoughts to an entry in case I decided to reread it. I do only have the first 4 monthly calendars drawn out since they take a while to draw since I am doing them only in pen, so I do not want to mess up, but I will eventually add the rest in. I have the outline of each log filled out, so when I have the time, I can go back to fill them in by using my old reading log as a reference. To make some progress, I decided to pick one at random to fill out. At the moment, I only have 15 books read, and 15 reading log entries won't be too bad to backfill. Similar to the Hobonichi cousin, I just need to sit down with this insert and copy down what I already wrote. The information I am writing down for each book is the title, the author, the amount of pages, a small synopsis, a star rating, and my thoughts. To create the star rating, I use the yellow Hobonichi stencil ruler. I tend to leave the stars blank or give a low rating at first to be able to see how I feel about the book after the book high of finishing a book dies down. Plus, my rating system is based on how I like it compared to the other books I read. So for me, 1 star means I still liked the book and finished it, but I won't be reading it again or won't care to remember the book besides what I wrote down in my reading log entry, while a 5-star book means that the book really impacted me and is part of my personality at that point, and I most likely will reread the book and have a lot to say about it. Now I'm going to the reading section in the back of my hobonichi weeks. This is located right behind the My 100 list in the standard edition. At the beginning of the year, I experimented with this notebook by removing some of the reference pages that are in Japanese and added extra notes from the back of an old hobonichi weeks that I never used up all the notes pages for, to be able to actually use all the pages within this notebook. I have more information about how I actually did this on my Instagram, which will be linked in the description below if you want to know more. Here, I am adding a list for 3 authors that I want to read or reread multiple of their books. This makes it easy to check the list to see which books are left to read and that I can add to my list. Then I went to set up a book wish list. I did it with 2 columns, one for physical books where I plan to write at the end of the book, whether it's a hardback or paperback, and then the second column, which will be for ebooks and potentially audiobooks, though that isn't very likely since I find it hard to focus on the story if I'm not looking at the words, which leads me to missing parts, but you never know, I may find one that I really enjoy. On Sunday, I started with updating my hobonichi cousin some more. Then I took out my hobonichi weeks to update the current weekly section by crossing out a task that did not happen and adding in 2 events to the weekend. If I do not complete a task that has been assigned on a specific day, I will cross it off once I have reassigned it or moved it to the inbox. I do not do this with the inbox, however. If a task does not get done in the inbox, it either gets transferred to the following week, or I add it to a post-it note of low priority tasks to reference back to when I have the time or finish all of my tasks. I also may not do anything if it is a task I have determined I no longer need to do. If you see me rolling my pen back and forth, just know that this means I'm thinking. I don't ever realize I'm doing it in the moment, but in this case where I'm filming, it's funny to see it happening. I then am going to update my habit tracker in my inbox before grabbing my blotting paper to flip to the next week so I can set it up and be ready for Monday. Here's a clip of me refilling my fountain pen since it was getting a bit spotty. As always, I'm using platinum carbon ink in black. I really love how deep and rich the black is, and I find that it's much more black than the Teatro Mentis Archive ink, which tends to shade for me. If you are wondering why I closed back the ink bottle to flip it upside down before opening it back again, it's because there is a small barrel in the ink bottle which is meant to help you be able to fill up your fountain pen even if there is only a small amount of ink in the bottle. This is really convenient since my fountain pen currently uses a converter to hold ink, which can be a little bit difficult at times to get a complete fill, and it does not hold as much ink as a cartridge. While I do have a cartridge and a syringe I can use to fill it with ink instead, I would like to purchase one of those metal covers from Jet Pens to ensure ink won't get everywhere if for some reason the cartridge were to move. But since that's the only thing I currently need from Jet Pens at the moment, I want to wait until I have enough things that I can qualify for free shipping.